Welcome to the second edition of my Getting Started in Ark video. In this video I'll show you the basics of getting started and surviving your first few days in Ark. And as you can see, I've just spawned in and I have a supply drop. The lowest level you can be to open a supply drop seems to be level 3, and that one being green, I'm betting it's higher than that. Now, I'm not even going to bother trying to get it because I don't think I can open it, and I can see a shark in there. In Ark, generally speaking, in the water, there are sharks and mega piranha, so you want to be very careful before you decide to stick your head in the water. And that dino running towards me is a herbivore. They're not violent or aggressive, so if it's running from something, that probably means there's trouble coming. Now, the first thing you'll need to do is gather yourself some wood, thatch, and stone, because you'll need to get your basic tools as quickly as you can. Harvesting most resources by hand does actually cause you injury, and a lot of the resources you simply can't harvest by hand. Now, a little bit of injury from harvesting resources may not seem like much, until they increase your water and food usage and you realize you're starting to starve and don't have any food. That's when it really starts to become an issue. Now, harvesting these little bushes, and harvesting by hand or with a torch in your hand, is as simple as just pushing E. In the earliest stages, you'll probably be stuck with the various berries as a food source. You may be able to kill the odd dodo. Once you get a spear, you're starting to look at being able to hunt dodos and the odd dillo. And if you find a spot in the river that's not too dangerous, you can spear hunt fish. That does provide a good source of food. But in Ark, food does actually decay very rapidly, even if it's cooked. Raw meat will spoil in 10 minutes, and cooked meat will spoil in 20. And that might be enough to make my first tool, which will be the stone pick. Nope. Not enough thatch. And I need a flint for the torch. If you find that you're logging into Ark and you're getting spawn killed, as in by dinos, that's not very uncommon. Several of the spawn zones are still work in progress, and yeah, they can spawn kill you. Now, if you do get spawn killed by the game itself, try a different spawn point. There's not much else you can do about it, because if you keep spawning in the same spot, whatever killed you is probably still going to be there waiting for you to spawn again. If you're getting spawn killed by players on a server, it's time to change servers. And I can get my stone pick. And I lost about 19% of my health. That's not a big deal, but it will increase my food usage, and as time passes I will slowly run out of food. Water's not so big an issue because there's plenty of it. Just walk in the water a little bit, press E, and you'll be able to drink. Now I can start harvesting some of the basic materials I'll need. In Ark, you get experience every moment you remain alive. So there you go, I've leveled up. Now you get to add 1 point to one of your stats. Or, well, it's not really 1 point, it's one little plus button. Some of the stats it adds 10 points, some of them it adds 5 points, some of them it adds a small percentage. And I need weight because I don't have storage. Until you actually click to assign your level up, you don't get your engram points for that level. Now the first thing I need is campfire to keep warm and cook food, and an axe to get wood. Next I'll go for a spear to hunt with, and then I'll start on clothing. Now you will notice, in addition to these supply drops, you've got those big obelisks in the different distance. Those big obelisks are used to summon the broodmother, which is apparently the last great alpha creature of the Ark, and you can use it to upload your characters and dinos to your Steam inventory for download to other servers that support the feature. They're also usually in very dangerous areas, and you often get killed trying to reach them. Now when you're harvesting trees, the metal tools are always dramatically better than the stone ones, but there's a trick to the tools with trees. A pick will get you mostly thatch and very little wood, and right now I need thatch, so I'm using my pick. And the axe, once you've crafted it, will get you a lot of wood and very little thatch. It's the exact opposite. And the torch is quite useful because it will keep you warm as well as allowing you to see at night. On a PvP server, be aware that a torch also says, "I'm here, please shoot me in the head." So you want to keep that in mind. Now one thing I am seeing a lot of people complain about is the difficulty. For one, Ark is a survival game and it's meant to be a bit tough. But that's not really the best answer. The best answer for the "it's very hard, I keep getting killed by everything in sight" is, one, it's a work in progress and it's still lacking some balance, and that would be a giant megalodon. The big shark I don't want to be meeting in the water right now. The other thing to keep in mind is that Ark is balanced out of the box for a decent sized group. It's really got a multiplayer balance to it, and that's just the way it comes out of the box. However, that's pretty easy to adjust, and no, I'm not talking modding. There are an incredible number of options that you can adjust simply by editing very simple clear text configuration files, as in you can open these things up in Notepad. Most of these big dinos are not dangerous. This guy won't bother you unless you hit him or, say, steal one of their eggs. Do not take an egg if you see it laying on the ground. Whoever laid it and their friends will come after you and kill you. Now, like I was saying about the balance in Ark being mainly for groups and multiplayer, that you can adjust with those configuration files, and it's extremely easy. I'm not sure how loud this game is in comparison to my mic, so I'm a little hesitant to talk while I'm harvesting. We'll see how that goes. I actually just got a little metal. You will use a lot of metal, and you don't get a lot of it unless you go either into the mountains. You do get a bit better metal from river rocks, but there's mega piranhas you gotta watch out for. Now, the map let me just show you this for a second. I'm down in the only part of the map that's revealed, and it does not tell you where you are. This is not a GPS, it's not hooked up to the internet, it's not going to tell you from satellites where you are. It's a hand-drawn map like the good old days, which the good old days weren't actually that long ago. Now, I can tell where I am on this map because, quite frankly, there's not much showing and that big river is pretty darn obvious. You really need to learn to navigate by landmarks and just remember where things are. Now, some personal servers and some single-player games have been adjusted in the settings I was just mentioning to actually show you your map position, thus removing part of the survival aspect and making life easier. And by the way, those configuration files, you may see people talking about custom configurations for servers, and that Dillo is gonna kill me, probably. And I just broke my pick. Okay, harvesting animals. You can harvest with your pick and you're supposed to get more meat than hides, and if you harvest with your axe you get more hides than meat. But I just find the axe is always better. I don't know, that might just be me. Now, I am injured, and whether you're hungry or not, if you eat while you're injured, it does speed your recovery. So what I'm going to do is make my campfire and install it. And to fix things like the pick I just broke, you can either drag and drop the item to your inventory. And I think I just managed to drop it on the ground. It did just vanish. Oh, and by the way, you're not toilet trained. You have no idea when you need to go, and you just randomly crap everywhere. Everyone does, and everything does. So don't be surprised if you see someone running by and watch them drop one on the fly. And where did that pick go? Oh, there it is. So I click on it, and I can click repair item, and it'll fix it if I have the materials. However, there's another trick to the items you make in your inventory. With it in the quick slot it was just in, if I have the resources, I can push the quick slot number again, and it will automatically repair it. So I can be mining away, break my pick, just punch the button again, and it'll repair it, and then hit the button again, and I'm good to go. And that will work with any item you can craft in your inventory. And there's another level up. And again, I'll apply it to weight. I'm going to buy the spear since I'm in a somewhat dangerous spawn place. And I'm going to start buying stuff for clothing. Clothing is important not just for armor and aesthetics, but it also provides you with protection from heat and cold. And if you get too hot, you lose a lot of water. If you get too cold, you'll burn through a lot of food. And both of those in early game can be hard to come by, and running out of those can kill you more often and more easily than dinos. There's the campfire. Throw some wood in. Yeah, you can see that meat. I must have killed that Dillo about 2.5 minutes ago. It's going to time out in 7 minutes and 30 seconds. But if I cook it, and it'll only cook one piece of meat at a time, but if I cook it, it'll time out in 20 minutes, although I'm hungry enough now, I'm probably just going to eat it all. And I might be able to make a spear. No. The spears are good even in later game for spear fishing, but you've got to keep in mind that they do... Every time you use a spear, whether it's new or you've had it a while, it's got the same random chance of just deciding to break. Okay. And you can actually carry 5 or 6 spears in the same quick slot, and it'll just use one after another if you break them. So that can be handy. And the reason they're good for spear fishing is It's the only weapon in the game that when you kill a fish, the fish will stay on it and you can just pull it out of the water. So you can actually spear fish from the shore and never get your feet wet and pull your fish out. Now these are mate boosted dillos, not dillos, dodos. And when you got a good number of them and you're low level with a poor weapon, they can actually swarm you and kill you. It doesn't happen often, but I have seen it happen. They don't provide a lot of food, they don't provide a lot of hides, but they're better than nothing. Now, one thing you do want to keep in mind is you don't want to get too far off the coast in the early game, because quite frankly, the further inland you go, the more dangerous it is. And I've got my meat. Now, as far as customizing and balancing the game goes, if you take a look in the description of the video for those of you watching this on YouTube, you will see a couple links that I've put there. I've put together a webpage that describes and explains how the customization works and what the different settings can do for you. And I've also created several tools that are point and click. You just choose the settings you want and give the button a click, and it will put out the code you need to put in your configuration file to custom your game. That way you can adjust it for smaller groups, single player, whatever your playstyle is. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you die and you're not on hardcore, well, if you die and you're on hardcore, you have to create a new survivor. But if you die in single player or multiplayer, anything not hardcore, and you do not have a sleeping bag or a bed deployed, you will have to pick a random spawn location. You can only actually set your spawn point if you have a sleeping bag, which is a single-use item, or by using a bed, which is, you can die as many times as you want and keep going back to the bed, but it does have a few minute cooldown in between uses. So you'll want to keep that in mind. And I am going to need a good deal more experience if I want to get my clothing. And I'm actually going to need fiber. You get fiber, berries, and most seeds from harvesting these little bushes by hand. Now, the seeds are used in farming, and what you'll find is that in Ark, farming is really important because there are several what they call Rockwell recipes. Think of them as the Rockwell family secret brews. And they add what is basically the equivalent of Ark's magic potions. For example, you can make the medical brew, which is the equivalent of a healing potion. You can make the energy brew, which is a stamina potion. You can make Lazarus chowder, which allows you to breathe not breathe underwater, but you regenerate stamina in the water, and it allows you to hold your breath incredibly long, so it's very useful for exploring in the water. There's ones that protect you from too much heat and too much cold, which is very important in exploring several of the caves. You can also make what's called kibble, which is sort of like an advanced pet food. And what the kibble does is it actually allows you, if you have the right kibble for the dino you're trying to tame, you'll be able to tame the dino 5 times faster than normal. But all of that needs to be made in the cooking pot, and the bulk of the recipes do require vegetables. Now, you will get the seeds for vegetables by harvesting these bushes, but you will never get a vegetable drop. You will actually have to farm those yourself. And I just really like to get myself some clothes. And there's something on the other side of that river I want to show you, although you probably can see it from here. Straight ahead of my campfire across the river, that's actually an island out there. And that island is Herbivore Island. It is the only place in the game where nothing but herbivores will spawn, so there's no hostile dino on the land. There are, of course, hostile dinos in the water. You can run into the megalodon or shark, and that is definitely not great. You can also run into the plesiosaur and mosasaurus out there. So again, the water is not your friend. However, that island is also, if not the only place, then one of the only places on Ark that you will find rich metal rocks which look golden or golden speckled in color, and they are the only rocks in the game that produce large amounts of metal. The only other place you find them other than out on Herbivore Island is higher up in the mountains, and higher up in the mountains means Carnos, T-Rexes, Raptors, the Gigantosaurus, tons of things that'll rip your face off. It can also get extremely cold up there. So, for those just getting started, especially if you're on single player or on a small private server, Herbivore Island may be a good spot to get a start. But you've got to be careful when building too close to anywhere that has special resources like rocks, the metal rocks, or even bushes, trees, stone, because if you build too close, the resources will never respawn. So let's say you find an area with a bunch of metal rocks and you think, I'm going to put a house right in the middle, and then I can step out my front door and just harvest metal. Yeah, well, the metal will never spawn back. And the same goes for these supply drops. You see, if you build too close to where one of those supply drops lands, the supply drop won't come back. And that is actually done to prevent people from building too close to resources and potentially blocking other players' access too easily. 2 more and I can get my pants. So while you'll want to make sure that you build fairly close to what you need, you don't want to build too close or you're defeating the purpose. Now that trike here is a very good early game bodyguard. They're very powerful and they have incredible knockback when they hit a target. The other dino just past it, get out of the way, is a parasaur. They're also a very good early team. They're fairly fast moving, but they're also chicken. So if you hit that thing, you're going to see how fast a dino can run. Good luck keeping up with it trying to tame it. And this guy runs probably faster than a parasaur when you aggress it. But these things are meat piñatas. You want meat? If you can take down one of those guys, yeah, you're going to have a lot of meat. I've never gotten less than 15 and sometimes more than 20 meat off one of those. So they're one of the meatiest dinos that I've found. Unless you're starting to talk to super huge dinos, but even then, I find on the average I get better meat for the energy by hunting those, I think they're called Phiomias. They're hard to pronounce. And he's a little closer to the brush line than I'd like. Yeah, a Phiomia. It's not a matter of I'm afraid of killing or getting killed by it. It's a matter of as soon as I hit that guy, he's going to run away, and I can't kill him fast enough or probably keep up with him. And when those dinos start running, they don't think. So he could easily run straight into Raptor or T-Rex territory, and yeah, following a running dino is sometimes a really good way to either get hopelessly lost or killed. And as you can see, I've managed to get my shirt and my pants. Now to get the gloves and the boots, what you need, other than more engram points, is some hides, which I think I've collected enough of. Just get myself another dodo here for food. Now, these dinos, well, a lot of animals are attracted to light. These dinos are absolutely ridiculously attracted to light, and often if there's a dino somewhat near, it'll come up and literally basically roll up on the fire and warm itself. So you want to be careful of that because it can actually attract hostile dinos to you, and that can certainly reduce your odds of living a long, happy life. You'll also want to learn the sounds of the various dangerous dinos, such as the Dillo and the Raptor, very early in the game. That way you'll hear it coming and you'll know what to expect, and you'll actually be able to flee. You'll do a lot of running in the early game, or you'll do a lot of dying. That tends to be how it works. Charcoal is useful to keep as it's used in several recipes such as the various dyes, and it's used in gunpowder, and you need a ton of that if you're going to be going for firearms. Now you can fuel most fires with wood, and wood always produces charcoal when it's burned. You can also fuel, if you can fuel a fire with wood, you can fuel it with thatch, which does actually burn really, really quick. It produces no charcoal. Or when you get the mortar and pestle, you can use stones and flints to make spark powder. Now, while spark powder is used to make gunpowder, it's also used to run the preserving bin, which is your only early game option to make your food last longer. And spark powder can be used to fuel a fire just like wood or thatch, and it lasts a really long time. So getting a ton of flint and stone is actually not a bad idea, and crafting spark powder does give you rapid level up at earlier levels, because you can craft a ton of it rather quickly, and at low levels the little bit of experience you get from each crafting process really adds up quick. Now when it comes to eating berries, there's two different types of berries that you really want to be careful of. One is the narco berry, which is actually a black berry. It's a small black berry, and that berry, it makes narcotics, which is used in taming and some of the Rockwell recipes. But don't worry, it's not really a narcotic. It doesn't actually have any narcotic effects at all. It's really just a tranquilizer. And the other type of berry you gotta watch out for is called the stimberry. And what happens when you eat a stimberry is it's the opposite of a narco berry. It will prevent you from being tranquilized if you've been poisoned or bitten, but it will deplete your water so fast you'll very quickly start taking damage from basically dying of thirst. These berries will help you avoid starving to death for a short time, but I mean, getting knocked unconscious is not exactly safe, and having your water run out if you're far from water will kill you. So those two berries really, they're used in taming, and they're used to make stimulants and to avoid being knocked out, and if you use them for anything else, you are taking your risks. I wonder if I've got enough. I got tons of thatch. I don't have enough fiber, I think, to do my... I want to make boots and a hat, and then I'm going to try getting across that river. Because I'd like to actually light up Herbivore Island on the map if I can. I don't know if I'll actually be close enough for it to light up or not. Really, the only way to get out there safely is you'll need to build a raft, and that's not going to happen too early on. But with the amount of resources that a raft requires, just gathering the resources can often give you a lot of experience towards getting the raft engram. And as far as rafts go, you want to keep in mind that you can build containers on them. So let's say, for example, you live here on the coast, but you want to go out and get a bunch of metal on Herbivore Island. Build containers on your raft, then just keep loading up the containers on your raft and sail back, and you can bring back 1,000 stone and hundreds of metal. It's really actually quite useful the way that raft and platform mechanic works. And first I'm gonna go for weight again. You also want to get a storage unit fairly early because you'll be collecting a lot of stuff you don't want to just have to throw out. And there's also the simple fact that if you die, you can lose everything, and keeping most of your stuff in a storage container, at least if you get killed and you're not on hardcore, you can go back to your storage container and get your goodies back. And I am fully clothed, and I'm just gonna take everything from this fire and put it out. Demolish it. When you demolish an item, you get back most of the resources you used, but not all of them. And generally speaking, if it's a rare resource that was a pain to get a hold of, that's what you're not going to get back. And that thing up there is a Spino. Might as well be a T-Rex, although I think a T-Rex might be a little less dangerous. However, he's busy with the other herbivores, so maybe I can cross this river and not get killed. Yeah. Dehydrated, grab a drink. Ooh. Well, I made it across the river in one piece. I'm far enough that that guy shouldn't aggro me. Famous last words, I know. This supply drop might just catch the land. Oh, no. That's, yeah. Not even gonna bother trying. I can already see fishies out there, and they're not the dangerous sort, but I'll bet dollars to donuts there's something not too far away. There's a lot of piranhas in that river. As you can see, I've now survived the first night. Got my clothes, got a spear, some food. And that out there is Herbivore Island. It's a really nice place to go early in the game, especially if you're like single player or a small server. You can get a lot of resources fairly easily. And again, the only other place that I've found where you can get the rich metal rocks, which if you're going to do anything with firearms or metal tools, you pretty much need access to the rich metal rocks, or you're going to spend all your time breaking your tools just to try to make enough metal to repair them. Forget about guns and ammo. And the only other place other than Herbivore Island thus far that you can get rich metal is higher up in the mountains where, like I say, that's T-Rex territory and Giganosaurus territory. You're just going to get, if you're a lower level, you won't even get near the base of the mountain and you'll be dead. So to get a decent amount of rich metal rocks, the only place you can go early game is Herbivore Island. I just want to see if I can make that light up. It'd also be nice to be able to show you a trilobite, but I don't know if I'll find one. Those can be extremely common. They're little, almost like some kind of a combination between a weird lobster and crab. And they are really useful because they provide chitin, which is used in armor and cementing paste for working with metal. And some stone projects require cementing paste as well. Now you can just click berries in your inventory or any other item and say use item. But I find the clicking gets tiring fast. So I load them into my quick slot and I just spam that. And there you go, I can scarf down a mountain of berries fast that way. And there's a dillo up ahead, but I see at least one more, and that means they're probably mate boosted, which gives them Well, it makes them a hell of a lot more dangerous, that's for sure. There's also oil in the water near Herbivore Island, which is fairly easy to get. And yeah, there's a trilobite. Now I gotta watch my stamina and oxygen. I just want to show you this guy because they're really neat. They don't fight back, but they're pretty hard shelled. If you're using a spear and not a pike, you'll break a bunch of them probably. If you're harvesting a lot of these guys, but you'll get oil, silica pearls, and you'll get chitin as well as some meat. Now that's not a guarantee. You'll get some of one item one time, some of another item another time, but you almost always get something useful out of them. And it's really the safest way to get small amounts of oil for things like your preserving bin or to make gasoline. And you can get enough chitin and silica pearls harvesting those because they usually appear in quantity that you don't have to worry, especially early game, about going to the more dangerous areas of the island to get your resources. I wonder if I can get that Dillo. Now these guys spit poison which slows you and blinds you. So yay and yay. Be very careful. And there you go. I'm slowed. And I'm blinded. Well, not completely blinded, but if he keeps hitting me it gets worse. And I'm back to normal. You'll want to watch out for those guys. They're vicious. And they're fast. It is now daytime and it's raining, which is why I've got my little cold marker. When you're cold you do burn food faster, so I'm just going to make a quick campfire. Now later on in the game you can get a GPS. No, it does not show you where you are on your map, but it functions like a compass, tells you which direction you're going, and it will give you the exact latitude and longitude of where you're standing in the game, which can be really useful. You can also make just a simple compass, and that will tell you which direction you're going. Let's see what my map says now. Yeah, if you look close on my map, you'll see that it's expanded a bit coming up around the right or east side of the island. And there's three little black specks. Those three little black specks would be those little islands close to Herbivore Island. And that's a megalodon out there. I'm just trying to tease it into showing me more. No, it's not going to, but in between 70 and 80 by 80 and 90 is where you'll find Herbivore Island on your map. Like I say, a raft is really your only real bet to get out there in one piece. I have made the swim, but I would have to say I got very lucky. I also had upgraded oxygen and stamina. Like, that may not seem far, but it actually is. And yeah, that's a megalodon. Now there are some ichthyes out there, or the ichthyosaurus, which is the Ark equivalent of a prehistoric dolphin. Very friendly, very easy to tame. The fastest thing in the water. Not very good fighters. I mean, if you look in real life in our oceans, maybe you remember a movie called Shark Tales, where basically dolphins are shark assassins. In Ark, no. I don't know if you just saw that graphic glitch, but it looked like a dolphin shot out of the water above the island. Anyways, I'm going to call that a wrap, because I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover in this quick getting started video. And I would like you to remember to take a look at the description, because there's customization tool links in there, information on customizing your game. I also have a bunch of information on taming, building, all the Rockwell recipes, cooking, farming. So please feel free to check it out. And if you liked this video and found it helpful, remember to like and subscribe. Now, this YouTube channel I only update when I have updated videos for my guides or publish a new guide. I will be putting up a new YouTube channel shortly in which I'll be doing game series. This one is just where I post my guides and my walkthroughs and such. So it is not updated as often. But I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it's been helpful for you. And I really do hope you have a great day. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.